当時の僕はただ正義感を貫くことしか考えない男だったな。ああ、いろいろやってたといえばそうだし、何もしてなかったといえばしてなかったんだな。
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO. Today we're going to be doing the series The Arthur Chronicles A Night to Remember, where I review every single Ghouls N Ghosts game in a retrospective fashion, and I'm doing it in chronological order this time. So of course, if you've already done Ghosts and Goblins, we have to do Ghouls N Ghosts next. This was released in 1998, it's running on the Capcom CPS hardware, and it is quintessentially one of the best and most revered arcade games ever made. This is just Hall of Fame first ballot status good, and I've been playing it basically my entire life. If we're get far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But Ghouls N Ghosts is just one of those absolute arcade classics. If you've ever played it, you'd know how hard it is and how enjoyable it is to try to basically poke at some progress. This is the type of game that will take you hours upon hours to learn and master, and it's not like you just have to beat the game once. There is a second loop to see the true ending, which is basically a hallmark of the Ghouls N Ghosts franchise. Now, when this game first came out in arcades, it absolutely hit, and I probably played it in 1993 or 1994 as a kid, fell in love with it, and I've been playing it ever since. While this game did get ported to basically every platform under the sun, we are playing the arcade original today because it is the first version of the game. But honestly, everything about this title is just absolutely spectacular, from the difficulty to the art style to the overall moveset and combat. It is just one of those games that's bullet hell shmup hard without being in that genre whatsoever. And obviously the same mechanics from the original game take hold here. One hit and you lose your armor, the second hit and you are dead. So you have a maximum of 2 hit points, so just absolutely ups the difficulty to an insane amount. But that's really why people come back to this game time and time again. It presents to you that old school arcade challenge that really makes you have to learn a game and figure out all of the patterns if you want to progress. And honestly, even though the first game was awesome in its own right, I really feel like the franchise came alive with the second game in this series. This is where Ghouls N Ghosts really kind of hits its mark, and it runs with it from there. While there will definitely be some games better or worse in the retrospective, this is absolutely a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. It is just one of those games I could play till the end of time and enjoy every single play session. And it's super impressive just how far arcade graphics had come in 3 years, because Ghosts and Goblins was released in 1985 and is definitely much more graphically inferior to this game. So within 3 years, Capcom got to the Capcom CPS system and everything just looked absolutely amazing from there. But this game is cruel, notoriously cruel in fact, but that's part of the fun of it. It will troll you. It's basically a Kaizo game, long before Kaizo Mario ever existed. Sure, it's not so much a platformer, although you do need to be good at platforming, but this game comes up with new and inventive ways to kill you every single screen. It is absolutely hilarious just how hard and maddening this game can be, but you kind of love it for it, and Red Armorer here is going to be the bane of your existence if you've never played this title. His move patterns will give gamers nightmares, and it really is one of those things. Once you understand how you can kind of kite him around and move him and basically exploit his own movement, it'll become a lot easier. But a lot of that learning experience is how this game is so much fun. And trust me, if you try to rush ahead, you're just going to end up continually dying. This is the type of title, like pretty much every other game in this series, where slow methodical movement is going to be the name of the game, outside of the fact that you are also running on a timer. If you go too slow and be too cautious, you will run out of time and not be able to finish the level. So that definitely is a risk versus reward of how fast you want to try to move versus how safe do you want to be. It's a decision only you can make, but it's a very smart and designed decision, basically forcing the player to make some sort of progress and not try to hide, because there's definitely certain situations, especially in the boss fights, where you can kind of exploit the boss's pattern against themselves and basically get what would be considered a free win. But that's classic Capcom arcade. Pretty much every boss can be cheesed if you know what you are doing. And as we move through this auto-scroller here with the parallax scrolling again, I love the colorways, I love the graphics. It just kind of feels like the perfect look for the Ghouls N Ghosts franchise. And one of my other favorite parts about this entire series, it has some of the best music Capcom's ever made in my opinion. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll come back and tell you more about the history of the game and why you should absolutely play it if you never have. But enjoy! An absolutely iconic track, and don't worry, you will get a second sound sample, but even the bosses in this game are just so much more fun and fully realized than the original. A giant eye that just flies around in a cloud, you absolutely love it. You have all of the Grim Reaper characters back from the original game, they just look so much better in this one, and that kind of is what I think about this title. It is just a bigger, more expanded version of the original game. It does everything the first game did right and just grows upon it, and that is why this again is still considered one of those arcade classics. Just remember, you cannot jump into those crystals, they will kill you, because this game loves to troll you, and that is kind of fun as well. The first time you play this game, or the first time you really try to sit down and get further into it, you will be amused at just how many choke points there are and how many different ways the developers basically screw you over. There's so many different gameplay elements and concepts, like going down these icy slopes here. If you have the wrong weapon like I do now, the axe, you're basically throwing up and you can't really hit anything, and that is a huge component of the game as well. Weapon selection can make or break a run. I ended up with the axe, I couldn't get rid of it, so I had to play a little bit of the game with it, although this would not be the stage in which I'd want that axe. And I even love that Magician can either turn you into a duck or an old man, making the game even that much more difficult. But when you're playing Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins and you're playing it well and everything's clicking, the satisfaction of learning the game and really progressing is absolutely huge. And because it has been a few years since I played this game, I totally forgot that I needed to jump to the left there. You'll see here the timing of the stage and that global timer are going to really make or break some situations too. Everything is basically on a cycle, and you can do better or worse depending on how you know the timing of the game. But you do get a lot of intense platforming, and getting through that section there always feels great. And I've always loved this giant grub boss as well. He just spits out smaller grubs, and as soon as you pop those 5 pustules on the side of his body, you're going to move on to the next stage. So it's nice to have a boss that isn't flying around the screen. Every single level has its own mechanic and gameplay hook. They're slightly different even though they feel familiar, and it really does challenge you to basically think of every single way that you can maneuver through this game, because Arthur's jump is very unique. You need to get used to that first, because if you can't handle the jump mechanic, you're absolutely going to die in this game over and over again, because when he jumps, you better be happy to be along for the ride, because it's going to be a long ride indeed. And once you get to the latter part of the game, the difficulty just goes to an absurd nature, but I absolutely love it. We're not going to have 1 or 2 or even 3 red armors here. We're going to have 4 on the screen at once, and that's absolutely a mess of them. You basically have to use them against each other to try to stack them up. But that is again the fun of this game. Progress is measured by inches, not feet. If you get one screen over, you learn that pattern, you come back, and next time you play the game you are slightly better at it. Just like a bullet hell shmup is basically half brute force and half memorization, and a little bit of luck included. But again, this game just fires on all cylinders for me. It's an arcade classic, and it's one of those titles, if you played it, got frustrated by it, and turned it off, give it another shot if nothing else than for me. But one more soundtrack sample, because I love the music in this game. 30 seconds and I'll be right back to tell you some more history and show you the ending. Absolutely iconic music, absolutely iconic character designs. Everything about this game is just so incredible from start to finish, and I love playing it even if it is almost 4 decades old at this point in time. And this isn't even the boss level. Oh no, we're just fighting bosses we've already seen, because we have to run through the boss gauntlet before we get towards the back end of the game. And trust me when I say, this area is absolutely going to destroy you time and time again. This is the type of title you are going to die over and over. You're going to take continues, you're going to have to put credits in, and you're just going to have to try to get better at the game. And Beelzebub here flying off and throwing some eggplants into the screen, turning into this massive fly is absolutely iconic imagery, and some of it definitely borrowed from other titles as far as works of literary fiction are concerned. And as we get to the final boss, you need to bring in the special weapon if you want to actually see the end of the game. If you've never played the game before, it isn't 1 loop, it is 2 that you have to complete with a very special item if you actually want to get the true ending. So trust me, it's not like it's going to be easy to beat beat the game the first time, but the second time is going to be even worse. But it is absolutely worth it. This is the type of arcade gaming challenge I grew up on and I love, and that's why I still love this franchise. But something like Ghosts and Goblins is just absolutely one of those titles. I will play it until the day I die, and I will always have fun with it. And that's why I decided to do a retrospective on this series, because I really wanted to talk about the history of the game and how today we don't really get many titles this difficult outside of stuff like Dark Souls, and those are a completely different genre, even though in some way, shape, or form I do feel like they're inspired by the Ghosts and Goblins franchise. Leave me a comment down below, let me know if you've ever beaten this game before, I would be curious, and tell me your favorite game in the franchise, because I have 10 more videos coming up and each one's going to be hard as hell and fun to watch. But short of that, we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.